Do you ever get that feeling you're being watched? This unsettling feeling in your body you can't help but to react and look around? Well, this is exactly what happened to a camper. However, something was actually looking at his every move. In today's story, a man in the remote lands of Alaska would suddenly be awakened by heavy footsteps. Something was pacing around his tent. He frantically grabbed his weapon to confront whatever was outside. He quickly unzipped his tent to only reveal this creature so big that it towered over him. And what would be staring back at him was these glowing eyes. One day, John decided to go camping in the woods about 5 miles away from his cabin. He was stressed out about work and wanted to relax by camping. So he packed up all his gear and went to the forest. He would find a nice clearing, he would set up camp, and by the time he was done, it was already nightfall. The woods in this area are usually loud. You'd hear leaves rustling, birds and insects, deers running around, but all that quickly changed. It was about 7 p.m. when the first incident happened. While listening to the wilderness outside of his tent, there was a stillness in the air. All of a sudden, all noises in the area stopped. Something was walking towards him. It sounded like snow crunching. John at first thought it was a bear. However, this was far too heavy. It was circling his camp as if he was a prey. All he could hear was a snow crunching what sounded like a two-legged animal, slowly getting closer. It did this for hours. John had his 12 gauge ready to shoot, but only to remember it wasn't loaded. The animal was about 7 feet away from his tent, so he quickly grabbed his box of buckshot and put the first shell in. The footsteps stopped. He kept straining to hear anything, but it never came. In fear, he decided not to leave his tent. The exhaustion overcame and he fell asleep. A few hours later, he would wake up to see his tent open. Frantically looking around for his shotgun, he would see it. It was outside. His stomach dropped. He clearly remembered having it next to him. He scanned the area and quickly grabbed his gun. He felt like he was being watched. All John could see was the stars in the pitch black of nothingness. But 2 stars moved. Not knowing how to react, he just stood there. The 2 stars that moved were now coming closer. No, these weren't stars. They were eyes. The animal was so tall, towering over him. It kept coming closer and closer. The closer it got, the stronger the stench of rotten meat. John would describe this creature as being hairy all over its body. Its limbs were massive, standing upright like a human. The creature's eyes were glowing, menacingly looking at him, and its mouth was wide open with long, sharp teeth. John was anxiously trying to aim at it, praying that this thing hadn't unloaded his gun. He pumped the first shell into the chamber and took the shot. The monster would move swiftly, shaking the ground. He must have hit the animal. He heard it run off into the woods. He quickly grabbed his bag and made a run for it. As he looked back, those same huge eyes shining in the darkness were staring at him. He could hear leaves and twigs snapping behind him. And when he looked back, the eyes were still there but now coming closer. With all the adrenaline running through his body, he ran towards his cabin, dodging trees and branches, hoping he was running the right direction. In the distance, he could see the cabin. Stumbling towards the door, he quickly opened and slammed the door, locking it, dropping to the floor with some sense of relief. The paranoia would keep him up all night. The entire night he felt like he was being watched, even though all his curtains were closed. The very next day he would report this incident to the police. However, he wouldn't be taken seriously. The police would ask him about his symptoms and if he was under the influence. He later decided the best decision he could make was to move away from this area. If you made it this far in the video, I want to thank you for watching. This channel will mostly consist of horror and mystery content, so if that's your cup of tea, please stay tuned. There will be different hosts. I'm excited for this since everyone has a different style in storytelling. Feel free to send us some stories in our subreddit, and of course, please subscribe and like to support us. Until next time.